what's up, everybody? It's me again, Marcus Medina, and yeah, I'm bringing you another one of those part three. Hopefully, I can try to get this in a bit faster than normal. I know that my last video was about an hour long. It was pretty much an hour long, right? So I want to try to get away from that, and I do want to make things a bit more quicker. So pardon me if I speak too fast or something like that. If anything, this is just a recording, so you can always go back if you miss something. And I will try to speak normally. um, and I know that usually when I speak fast, words are more, I guess they sound more jarbled and stuff like that, but I'll try to get away from that. Anyways, I said that I will be talking about the schools in details. Or sorry, in detail. There are numerous details, but sorry, I don't know. I just had a full day thinking I was going to work, and actually, my classes got canceled. And well, one class or five or six of the classes I was teaching actually had students on vacation, and then my students was, I guess they reported that they were not coming, and one was, but then he got conglomerated into a class that's showing up a little bit later in the future, uh, well, in this week. So they're doing a major testing thing, and we'll talk about that. Um, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the beginning video. That is called Arirang, and it's like the traditional Korean song, pretty much like the anthem or something. So a lot of kids know it. They sing it at their schools growing up and everything. And, you know, I have a few videos of kids doing it over the years, but the first one that you saw was my favorite, of course. Anyways, yes, I'm going to talk about the three schools that I taught at. Well, there were other schools that I taught at as well, at least one other one mainly, but there's one specific branch that I work in that got me here to Korea, and that's Cheongju. Of course, we talked about this before. Cheongju is the biggest, one of the biggest hagwons in all of Korea. They have different companies stationed around the world. They are or have some kind of major stock, in, I guess, in the stock market, whatever. And it was the first, and it's been up since 1998 from Cheongju, out there near Gangnam in Seoul, right? So they're all over the place now. There's even places in Philippines and stuff like that that have centers. Canada, California, read and write. They're everywhere. Anyways, I'm going to talk about a little bit about Seoul. No, not the time when I almost got hit by a car. Yeah, I almost got hit by a car plenty of times in Gangnam, and I actually got hit by a car just a little bit. I got hit by a car right in front of my house. It was kind of weird, or my apartment, I mean. But it wasn't that bad, and I'm still going to move on with the story. I taught at three different branches of Cheongju, and in my first branch, I taught half of the time I taught at a kindergarten. Like I guess I was asked or requested to work by the director, and I did work at his kindergarten school, like in the middle of my contract, but uh, primarily I taught at Cheongju. Um, my first school, which no longer exists today, is called the Gwangjing Branch Cheongju, right? And this particular school lasted for about, I mean, for me, my contract lasted for about a year and 3 months. Um, it was really competitive, and they were really strict. We didn't really feel the strictness from the staff, but it was passed down to us through what we call an HI, a head instructor. Um, for one, the school, it wasn't bigger as far as, like, different floors. I mean, I've heard of Cheongdams that had dozens of teachers and stuff like that. But this one is the biggest one I've worked at. It had 8 teachers from start to almost finished. Sorry, with one of them being the head instructor. Um, he was a Filipino American, so it was the first time, I guess, that I've met another person besides myself and the other new guy that was something other than Korean, um, and Puerto Rican or something like that, or Dominican. I'm not sure. I guess she was Dominican. Anyways, next person we have in charge of us is FM. He was. I always considered him to be like a Korean American, but he was like in Hong Kong or something like that. I don't know. Well, he was Army, a U.S. Army, and he was somehow Korean Army as well. But being U.S. Army kind of makes you American, right? So, I mean, he was a Army soldier. He was the FM. We call that the faculty manager or something like that. Right. So faculty manager, something like that. And that person actually is a teacher, but they also are in charge of the HI. They receive all the words from the branch manager, and they tell the HI what to look for when they govern their teachers, right? Um, we had a branch manager. The branch manager basically is the person who is in charge of everybody. He's in charge of the teachers, the HI, the FM, everyone. And the branch manager basically, the branch manager is just like the manager, the person behind the computer calling. They call the shots because they're the ones who probably know English, so they just they deal directly with HI and FM, things like that. Then we had two desk assistants, which I guess you would call them the counselor. Um, I guess they were called counselors because I saw the business card, so I considered them the counselor. But they're known as the desk teacher from the student's standpoint. They don't teach anything, but they do or did administer grammar exams and tests, and they held the grammar classes. They tell the students what page to do, and that's about it. They don't really like teach anything. They just administer things, and they have students sit down and do this grammar work or something like that. And then the big dog, which is the director. My director in Gwangjin was married, so his wife helps him out on the job, and occasionally I see her or him and her. So it's like that. The director didn't speak any English, none whatsoever, nothing. So basically, all of the operations and all that stuff comes from like the director and his wife. His wife is they were both very kind, but they don't really speak to English teachers directly. So that was the thing. Like you really don't get a chance to know who he is without the FM telling you who he is, right? Our FM was pretty good for the most part. I guess I'll go ahead and talk about the staff. The staff is in Seoul was pretty nice. It took a little bit of time to get to I guess become friendly with the group. Um, Probably about like I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months in, I was just like, okay, I need to get to know somebody here on the job or whatever besides the new guy. So I started talking to one of the girls who was actually a YouTube vlogger or something for the recruiting agency that got her into Cheongju, which is called Eclipse, which I talked about before. And we went out. We had a restaurant called Outback. Yes, the Australian Steakhouse or something like that. So we went to Outback Steakhouse. We ate sometimes, and we went to McDonald's, and we ate sometimes, and we went to Baskin Robbins, and we ate. Okay, we ate a lot, and that was pretty much about it. And I mean, aside from that, I mean, if I hung out with anybody, that's all we did was eat and hang out and eat. I mean, we ate or hung out at restaurants and we ate, right? Um, and it was an unusual kind of cast. I mean, we had some, I guess, some uh, teachers who were more like, oh, this is kind of cute, they were like, kind of girly. Then we had the one girl that was kind of wild, she was like, kind of, I guess she acted tomboyish a bit and try to give that impression that, oh, I'm a mean person, listen to me, or I will punish you, kind of thing. But she wasn't really too bad at all. She wasn't bad at all, actually. She was nice to me at least. And our HI mean, he was cool. Uh, I don't know. Today I just found out he was rich. He's like loaded or something. I don't know, but he's always traveling. He's a mystery. We never really got a chance to like hang out or nothing like that. I mean, most of the teachers hung out with him, but didn't really hang out at the end, I guess. And then we had our FM. He was the primary guy that I hung out with. And then we had a staff change, or at least some faculty changes with the teachers. And then when we got new guys in, they were a bit younger, and or also younger. And we got a chance to hang out a lot more. And now we're really cool friends. Right? So almost everybody went back, except for me. I was like pretty much one of the last workers that worked there. Like after me, there were a few new teachers, and then nobody else came. Nobody else was like hired there. And then a few months passed, and then their school just collapsed or something. But anyways, Gwangjin was nice because for one, we had bigger rooms. The system was well organized. I mean, it seems that there was a lot of communication between the desk assistants or the counselors, or whatever, and then we had a lot of movement in the background. So when we came, all we did was we just came, sat down, prepared for our classes. Quite simply, we just prepared the flow chart for the class that we teach. So we're not really like making anything new. Everything is already done, right? But the thing is like how we teach it. Like we need to have a way to teach the material, right? You need to have a way to deliver yourself, and you have to have like the charisma, the endurance to go on for 3 hours and then do it all again with a different class, right? Um, I mean, the rooms were big. It was nice. The desks were freaking huge, but other than that, it was nice. And the students were primarily from 4 to 7 p.m. They were primarily energetic. They were ready to go. I mean, these kids were like freaking adorable. And it was pretty good. And then when you get to high school, it's like, I mean, not high school. We didn't teach high school, but we did teach middle school, and it's a toss up. Like sometimes you'll get middle school students who just like they don't want to work. They don't want to do anything. Some students, they're smart, but they don't want to do anything. Then you have some students that just they don't care. Some students, they did work. Some worked hard, but there were a few or many that were just afraid to speak. And that's how it was. Like we had just like these kids that were just they were afraid to be wrong, so they didn't say anything. And I guess that's one of the biggest things that you hear about, like when you deal with like students who are so used to like they're so used to knowing what they want to say because they studied it and they know it, but they do it in Korean. Um, you meet these students who are just always right at some point up until they get to English, and they're just not perfect. It's the one thing that they have trouble with, and they don't want to show their mistakes. They don't want to show their weaknesses. But the biggest one is not doing anything, right? So you try to get past that, and then you get into the student, and then the next thing you know, it's almost like your best friends, right? But it's not the case with all the students. I mean, this is middle school. It's just some. So it really depends on the teacher. I can safely say that my middle school students were pretty great. There are some funny times. I made the best out of every moment. So even when the students were like acting up, or maybe if they weren't doing anything at all, I did like the best I can do, and also I made the best of that moment, right? Like for example, the student was just being bad. Well, I found ways of getting around that, right? And then the next thing I know, the student turns around. So I'm not saying that all students do, but most of them, they stick around, and the longer you get to know them, the better. It's like you're both not going anywhere, so get used to each other, right? But there's really like no fights or violence or nothing like that going on, so it's pretty good, right? Um, this school didn't have an April program, like an early. They didn't have an early education program because the early education program was actually upstairs from our school, and they also didn't have intensives. Now, when I first got to Cheongju, that summer term began. We have everything in 4 terms: summer, winter, fall, spring. Well, we started in the summer term because my first day was around May 23rd or something. And about a month later, one of the teachers that I trained with, the giant guy, I guess I don't know if I talked about him before, but the giant guy, John, who is also a vlogger for A-Clips, um, he said that he had intensives, and we heard about it before. We heard from it from when we first started that some schools offer intensives as a way to keep the children in school, make some extra money, things like that for the company. And for from his side, he was doing it in Daegu. Daegu is a city that's like 4 hours away from Seoul. But anyways, we we asked our branch manager, "Hey, do we have intensives? Because these guys are suffering." And he was like, "Nope." And I was like, "Good," because I don't want to know what that is. And he was basically saying like, we make so much money that we don't need to have intensives, and it was true. Um, my salary for working at Gwangjin was about 3 million Korean won, which is almost like $3,000 USD. And I was taking home after taxes and rent. I was taking home 2,500. So 2,500,000 Korean won. Right, it's a lot of money. And this school was unique because they paid for the housing. Like they just normally for hourly workers, you have to find your own house. But at this specific school, they just cut all that out. They said we own apartments. We own an apartment building basically, so you can live in that. And that's what I was talking about. Like I was happy last time that I got to save my money and use it. So um, we at least I had the opportunity of working the extra, the early elementary classes a little later, and that was pretty good. But working from 10 a.m. to basically 2 p.m., that was problematic when I'm already going to be working from 3 to 10 p.m. for Cheongdam. I got paid overtime, and then my monthly salary for about 4 or 5 months was about 4 million Korean won, which totals up to about $4,000. Um, we also taught in the mornings on holidays. There's special holidays that we teach on. Aside from the Chuseok holiday, which is like Korean Thanksgiving, which is in September, or it's coming up actually from now. Um, and we also have another Chinese New Year kind of thing, the Lunar New Year. Those two holidays are the only holidays we actually have off. But on some of the days, like Children's Day, Independence Day, and things like that, Buddha's holiday, Buddha's birthday. At this specific school, we teach early, like we teach from 10 to 4 p.m., and then we can go home. Um, it was okay, but I don't know. Like, just when I look back at it, I'm thinking, wow, we could have just had the day off. But all the kids showed up, and then they go and celebrate and do their thing. There was a 10 to 1, which is elementary, and then a 1 to 4. So, like, those kids, the younger kids at least, are the ones who are probably having fun before classes or before the celebration, and then you have the middle school kids who celebrate first and then come to class. It's kind of weird, but we got paid extra. We got paid overtime pay. Um, Again, it was the strictest one of all, so we followed the curriculum exactly the way that it was. We didn't skip anything. Everything was given, right? Every single piece of paperwork, every page had to be finished to a T. If you didn't finish, you got lectured. You got bothered about like why you didn't finish. And then, kids don't agree with you. They don't want to do it. They stop. And then they go home and the parents get angry at you. Yes, that's right. The parents get angry at you because you didn't make the kids do it, so you're the one at fault, right? And I found this to be a problem. Like it was like the only problem I had, but then like, after that, I started making new rules and coming up with these new strategies and ways to get kids to actually work without the use of candy. And then of course your uh, discipline level gets higher and higher and harder for the kids to bypass. Like once you start taking away breaks, you can't escape. And then the kids, they get tired. Like they try to say like it's okay, I don't need a break, but no, they need a break. Um, and then a little later, we went from the paper books to a tablet, electronic tablet system, and we didn't get introduced to it until about maybe halfway around my time. There, we went to Gangnam and trained for a bit. We trained for about we trained only on the weekends at first, and then we trained for no, I'm sorry. We trained for a week. We trained for 2 weeks. We would show up on certain days, and then we would train and do their little new system and stuff like that. This specific school, they usually focused on vocabulary and structure, right? And we're talking about like how to answer certain questions, things like that. And their structure was like basically, of course, reading comprehension, writing, uh, is writing composition, listening comprehension, and speaking, right? So that kind of structure, we just focused basically on the core, and the vocabulary was like kind of stressed in a little bit around 3 or 6 months later. Um, the 3.0 thing came to us, but not all teachers taught it immediately. I continuously trained myself in it before and after the training, and then I finally had a chance to teach it near the end of my time there. And and of course, like I taught some classes for teachers uh, under certain circumstances, but we had it official, like mandatory, by spring 2014. Um, every class didn't have it, of course, like I said before. So the high level still had to do the original stuff. The whole college textbook thing, it didn't make any sense. I was like, man, I did this when I was in college. These little kids are like 10 or 11, like the really good ones. They're doing this, like they don't understand this stuff. Like they just see it and it just leaves them. But of course, the 3.0 simplified everything. Another thing was that just finally going to hit up the last part, but the company dinners um, are usually held in a bulgogi restaurant if it's by the HI, or if it's by the director himself. He's going to send us to Outback. He was a fan of Outback. He was giving us like these gift cards. Go $50. Go to Outback, whatever, just for being there, whatever. It was pretty cool. Um, the end of my time at Seoul came for me. Of course, like I was kind of like a late, like I said before, I didn't really grasp the system, like at least the book system, all too well. I was really good with the 3.0 and the children, the students. Um, the thing is that like most students were there because the way that I taught. Most of the kids, they really loved the way that I was teaching them, and some of the stricter parents, they started complaining. So like basically, the parents pretty much tried to I guess they tried to insist that I leave, but the company wouldn't let that happen. So what they did was they waited until my contract was going to end, and it was going to kick. It was going to jump my contract salary from like basically 2.5 million to like 2.7 million. And the thing is that like being paid that much money is tough for a Korean academy. They're just like, we can't pay you that much because you're kind of like not worth that much. And what happened was that they said that I'm going to have to find another school to go to, but originally I mean, the thing is that they don't want to just let you go. If you're good at what you do, they're going to try to get you into another school. So they tried to get me into another Cheongdom or whatever. And of course, like I'm just saying this from the branch manager's standpoint. He was just saying, you're good at like connecting with the students, and like they always follow what you do, and you do make the classes more fun for them. But some of our more serious students with the parents, actually the serious students, they're usually the scared ones that don't like to talk, and they're very proper, and the parents are super rich or whatever, but their parents are super serious. And like most times they're just like, oh, it was the class was fun. So the students parents like, what, you having fun? You shouldn't be in this class, right? We want you to learn. But they're learning, they're learning. They're just like, they just have to learn a different way, because I'm not like a boring teacher, and I don't like to just like, okay, everybody turn to page 5. We have a lot of teachers, like I've seen teachers like that. But me, I'm just kind of like my teacher when I was in 7th grade. I had a crazy science teacher, and he made the class fun, and I actually learned a lot. So I was kind of like that. Just infuse my personality with what I think a good teacher is, and that's what I did. The thing is that like certain teacher styles don't fit certain schools. Even if you're working for the same branch somewhere else, some teaching styles just don't work out, and I will tell you why. Um, what I already told you, but like it just depends on location and certain parents who have control, who's pulling the strings in politics and stuff like that. When it comes to what their kids are, what the parents want. Sorry, what the parents want. The kids just want to just listen to mom and dad, but don't really want to do anything. But the parents want them to like have a serious teacher who's all about that student, right? And no matter how many teachers they go through, I'm telling you, um, no teacher really has time for one student. It never really works out that way. They'll tell you that you have to pay more attention to this student. I have bad kids that I have to deal with all the time. So and me, I'm not really about showing one student so much attention, and I do try to like do it without doing it. Because most kids, they know their parents call in the schools like, uh, pay more attention to Angelina, and then they tell me what the parents said, and then I'm just finding myself trying not to be too explicit, but trying to show some kind of care for that student or whatever, and make sure they did their work. Um, but I usually don't say anything that hints it off. But I still try to give attention to other kids. So like after a while, I got a job offer in Jeju Island, and I thought I'd take it. And there was I'll talk about the background behind my decision on Jeju in the future. Um, anyways, I got to Jeju Island, and what I noticed was that the place was a lot hilly, and I met my branch manager under a different circumstance. It was like my third branch manager also. She was a woman, which was kind of like, it was kind of cool. It was different, dealing with the male branch manager, and he has this kind of way of being very straightforward, and here we have this other branch manager, and she's kind of sweet, but she's all about her business. She was very very busy when I met her, so she was just like, here's your house, and this and this and this and this, and you can go find your own thing, right? So I was like, okay, but I was already in Korea for a year, so I already knew what I was looking for, and I knew how to get back. I already had my phone at this time, so there was no way of getting lost. And I'll tell you about the background of like, the housing thing later when I talk about that too. So, anyways, I worked in Jeju after working in Seoul at least for 1 year and 3 months. I continued the second year contract for 9 months here in Jeju. And this school was a bit smaller. It was a lot smaller. At least I worked in Old Jeju, not the downtown Jeju, which is a little. They're ran by the same manager, just different students in different schools. So this school I taught at was much smaller than the downtown one and my Seoul one. We had 3 teachers, with one as the HI. He was Korean American or something like that, or naturalized American. And we had one primary desk assistant, a counselor. Um, and the branch manager was the director. She was the FM. She was everything. The woman who picked me up. So from that, Um, it was kind of I don't know. It was okay because I got the chance to deal with the director, the person in charge directly, and that's good. She spoke perfect English. She grew up for some time, or at least she was a teenager or something, and a young adult or whatever you want to call it. She was a college student at Ohio State, and then of course that probably helped her with understanding because the first branch manager never left Korea before. Like he's never, I guess he's never left Korea. But our branch manager's been living in the States, so she knows what we're like, and she understands a lot of the lingo and the lifestyle, and she doesn't really question us on anything. Why do we do this? Why, like my first branch manager, why do you want to go to Japan? Why do you want to go to Vietnam? Why do you want to go here? Right? No, she wasn't like that. She was like, oh, I like that. That's cool. That's nice. You know, she was more interested in you as an individual. Um, and she was nice to me overall. She's never really criticized me once at all. She did ask me to pay more attention to some certain students and things like that, or scold students, and I'm like, I don't know how to be mean. I mean, I know how to be mean, but I don't know how to be like, I'm not going to scream. That's not the military, you know. She knows better. Like I'm just like that, you know. Anyways, I taught in a smaller room, and it was condensed for large students as well. Like I had a lot of students in this small room. The most I had was 12, and 12 is not even 12 can't even fit in my room today. Like, and that room is bigger. The CCTV or CC television uh, security camera or whatever that is in every classroom and almost every school in Korea, it was situated in the middle, so that means like all of my students had to sit in the front, and it was kind of weird because like I'm just so used to having students in this kind of half circle after teaching the new electronic program that puts students in this half circle around the TV screen that we have. Well, these students they started off using the old style, so I already knew about that. I was like, okay, I don't need training. I just go straight in to teach the stuff I taught before. I know how to do it, and then get into teaching in the electronic stuff. Um, it was kind of a challenge at first, but not really. Since I already knew how to deal with students, it was like, okay, hello everybody. I'm Marcus. I taught at Seoul for like a year, so I already know about this. And of course, the students didn't really try a lot, but they did try some things. And it was like a lot of new things that I fell for, a lot of these new tricks that students play. I didn't fall for as much this time, but I fell for a few. But I let them know that, I'm a fast learner. I'll find out. I'll find out. And I did. And then, it was easier to connect with the students. Actually, a lot of them worked pretty hard. I gotta say that they had some really great personalities there. One is the laid back personality. Jeju doesn't really compete at all with like they don't have a lot of English schools, so there's no one to compete with. A lot of parents are old school style, and with that being said, they're kind of like ants, whatever. You got a bad grade, okay, whatever. I'm willing to send a letter to your mom. Uh-huh. Mm. My mom don't care. I was like, okay, let's see if she cares. Oh, she won't care, and then she didn't care. Um, Only the parents who come from Seoul to move over did. Anyways, they were less focused on the scores. They were more outgoing, as I said before, and of course focused on vocabulary, just like any other school. And the management wanted us to focus on morale. Just make sure the kids like you. That's all it is. So it kind of worked out. Um, they changed to the 3.0 structure a little later in my final term, and then they allowed me to assist with the trainers that came over to train the teachers and some other new teachers also. They trained the teachers who never taught in 3.0. All of them didn't except for me. So I had a choice to stay home or assist, and I chose to assist. Um, I don't know. It's just if you help out to make your workplace a better place, then it's going to be a better place. If you don't help out, everybody's finding out stuff on their own. There's stuff that I forgot that I've found out again. So being there with some coworkers who actually are kind of like my friends or are my friends made it easy for all of us. Um, we were introduced to the I was introduced to the April Learning Program, which is like the early elementary kind of thing, where we just like we teach young kids. Uh, it's like phonics and things like that, and they are high energy kids. Oh, they're everywhere. They're everywhere, and these kids could be like anywhere from like 7 to 9 or 10 years old. Then they have to go to the higher level classes, which are the lowest level of Cheongju. The company dinners that we had was like tejigogi or whatever it's called. It's like pig, pig pork, Jeju pork or something like that. The branch manager took us to those places. And what I mean is, of course, only us workers go there. So if the manager wanted to introduce a new person to the other schools, from the other schools to us, or whatever, vice versa, we had the dinner. It was pretty nice. I don't really eat pork, but it was nice. Um, the current place that I teach at right now is called Cheongju. This is where I'm currently working. I've been teaching here for over a year and another 3 months. Wow, in which I'm currently on this final contract. This is actually the mandatory contract was fulfilled, but I'm on a voluntary contractual agreement and extension that allows me to stay in Korea for 4 extra months, 3 in which I work, and then the other one I can just do what I want. But I'm not, because I'm actually moving. Anyways, I began the HI. I began working as the began working as the HI uh, right, like somewhere around in the wintertime or the springtime of this in last year. Like in that transitional period, I became the head instructor. It is nice because it pays me like $300 more, but I have to like basically command teachers, and I have to make sure things are working out, and I'm basically like in between the boss and the teachers. Um, so I got introduced to that management position. It's pretty nice. It looks good on the resume sometimes. Um, and I was also introduced to a few other things, traditional Korean style debate, where like anything goes. I don't know what debate is like, because I got introduced to it my first day, and I'm like, what do I do? And I did it. I got introduced to phone teaching, which is in Seoul, usually a Filipino thing, but they have me doing it. Like I call a student and then I start asking them about their day, and they don't have anything to talk about. They don't have any interest in anything. They're just on the phone, just breathing sometimes. So I'm just like, and it was just one kid, and she didn't eat anything, just rice and lettuce. That's it, or something. And she didn't like nothing. She didn't like anything. There was nothing. But she liked dolphins. That's it. So we talked about dolphins for almost a year until the new teacher came, and then he took over, and now they're talking about dolphins every day. And I got introduced to intensives for the first time, so now I know what it's like because I'm doing it now for the second time, official time. And basically, we just teach stuff that's not part of Cheongdam at all. Unlike the other schools that do teach the Cheongdam or extra Cheongdam stuff, we teach books from like basically from your average language arts class in elementary school somewhere out there in USA. Um, I also got introduced to administration tools, and I know we're not supposed to really use them, but I use them. Other teachers do too, and it's kind of weird having to send messages home that parents don't understand, but you know. Company dinners are held at this place called Gram Gram, which is a beef place, and I can safely say that the best school that I've worked at, of course, um, as far as students go or concerned, and management itself is, of course, this current place I work at, Cheongju. The downside to it is that I have a huge workload. Before, when the workload was growing, I didn't really care. Like, I didn't really. I was like, I don't know. That's not Cheongdam. It's not traditionally CDI. We're not trained by it. I'm not going to do it. It's not on the contract. I don't care. But when I became the HI, it got more serious, and then I come to find out that the school is actually like all the other schools I worked at, a franchise, which they can change anything at any time. franchises tend to be more lenient than like corporate backed or main branches or corporate branches or HQs, right? These kind of bigger schools, like the first one I taught at, they're very strict. You got to do everything that they say. My school, not really like that. Like my school's kind of lenient. They do give us days off. They try to encourage us to like, uh, you know, pay attention to certain students, but of course, things just kind of come and go. It's just they say things a day and they don't remember things, and their busyness, like busyness helps because busyness like keeps people off your back and things like that. So for the most part, parents have a better relationship at this current school. So I mean, it would be nice to like for me to keep doing it if I had nothing to do. But of course, after teaching here, I'm going to be going to China and stuff like that. I don't know. I'll talk about that later. But all in all of the branches value money over all. It's money over everything mentality. Occasionally, there's a protection of interests. In Seoul, they were more about protecting the teacher, and the Jeju branch was more about protecting everybody down the middle as much as they can. Sometimes students, sometimes teachers, and Cheongju primarily focuses on protecting the kids, which is one thing I just don't like. It's the one thing I don't like is having to apologize to a kid, a brat, who's done the most craziest things in class, from like not working to, I don't know. Sometimes I don't even know. Like I'm just like this student just whatever. Like I'm being a real teacher, which is not real, and they don't care. They just only care about the student because it's all about the money. Parents paying it, and the way that teachers are in America, it's all about their rules. You got to follow my rules. I don't care what you say. I'm telling your mom if you're not working. And in Korea, it's totally different. Like you can't just tell a kid not to come. You can't tell a kid that you can't ask a kid while they're here, why are you here? My mom told me to come. Of course, like it's the same thing everywhere, except their mom is paying for you to come. It's different. Um, so yeah, you can't do that whole westernized thing where you question the kids and like kick the kids out of class and stuff. You have to just deal with it, you know. Um, and it's better to like sometimes just let things go. It's better to let things go, especially since I've been HI. Just let a lot of stuff go. Just like I already know what is needed and what is wanted. I've been asked and begged to like stay. I mean, I really love it. The students are smarter in Cheongju than anywhere else as far as like just overall teacher student relationships. Jeju is pretty good too. Seoul, they were just robots. I feel like they were zombies sometimes at night. But the Jeju kids got better over time. It's just they only got better when certain kids have left. But Cheongju, they have a lot of staying power. A lot of the kids are still there. The older ones, of course, when you're high school, you gotta leave. But a lot of the kids were good, and they worked, and they answered questions and things like that. So, anyways, looks like I'm like running um, up there in time. I try not to get there, but I managed to put all three schools together. I mean, this is a summary of pretty much of every single thing. I can talk about a little bit more in detail over the years if I ever have any questions about how certain things are. If you have any questions, again, you can ask them in the comment box or send me some kind of message or something, and then I'll talk more in detail about certain things if anybody's ever interested in that, right? Um, but this is primarily a Cheongdam thing, so if you have questions about like the three, like any of my experiences in the three different schools, feel free to ask because some people stayed at certain schools for a longer period of time, so they've seen a lot, but they've only seen a lot there, right? I've seen a lot everywhere. I mean, I can't say that I'm, everywhere, but technically three schools is enough, right? Most teachers leave after 1 or 2 years anyway. So, um, anyways, I'll upload another video or something like that later. Hopefully they'll get shorter and shorter, but I'm running up here on time, right somewhere over there. Okay. All right, have a good night, everybody, and thank you for watching my video. If you have, stay tuned for the fourth one. Peace.